It's just been harder and harder and harder to find those people to work.
Trump says, be patient. The farmer's going to be better than ever. Well, you better hurry up.
This is not something that farmers can work around. No one anticipated that we would have a shock to the system. All the experts did not see this coming.
Or, she's trying to run an old school plantation, basically. At least it's as close to slave labor as you can get these days under the law.
They thought they were going to get Black Americans in the fields.
You want to get rid of illegal immigrants, quit eating. And that's for everybody. That's, nationwide. If you want to get rid of them, quit eating. That'll solve the problem.
All of us farmers have officially fucked around, and we have officially found the fuck out now, guys. I am on the verge of bankruptcy. I'm on the verge of tears. Overnight, all of my help fled. My help, out of fear for their safety, their lives, they fled. And now I am left out here standing in my unharvested carrot field. It is January, and I'm in Kansas, and this is when carrot harvest goes in Kansas. This field should be full of workers, but all my workers left. And who the do you think is to blame for that? Every single one of them left. Now I have to by myself try to fill that truck with a load of carrots in one day, and I can't do that, guys. I have to get these carrots to market by next week, or my contract is terminated. This is $936,000 worth of carrots right here, and I can't pick them by myself. If they're unharvested, I will get kicked out of that contract, and I will get sued by the Planters Loves Carrots company.
Farmers again. It's another story about farmers. Talking about these farmers, most of them are Trump supporters. They voted for him, they supported his policies of deporting immigrants, and they thought they would see a number of Americans, mainly Black Americans, rushing to apply for those farm jobs. But they are shocked that there are no Americans who are interested in those farm jobs. I don't even think that it is about not being interested in those jobs. Probably it is the problem of the conditions and the pay that those undocumented immigrants were being given, which is not compatible with many Americans. So now these farmers are begging Trump administration to bring back those undocumented immigrants who were deported. And this is what we call F around and find out. This is their find out moment. Let's first hear from these people. I will come back at the end with a critical analysis. If you are enjoying watching this one, click on the like button. If you have not yet subscribed, subscribe. Let's get into it.
But when only 5 pickers showed up this morning to harvest his sweet potatoes, farmer Keith Smith saw possible ruin, the loss of his $500,000 crop.
They're running scared because of this new law.
And you're in trouble.
I'm in trouble, bad trouble.
Smith's 200 acres need 20 pickers, mostly Mexican nationals.
There is not enough documented people here to supply that workforce.
Most of your workers are here illegally.
That's sure. If they got documentation, they got a better job than working for me.
Fernando Aldeman, a Mexican national, has worked Smith's farm since 1992.
Everybody's just scared.
Yeah.
Now, are you here legally? No.
No.
So, are you scared?
Yeah, I'm scared. I'm scared,
Smith's pickers make about $100 a day. He supports immigration laws, just not this one that threatens his third-generation family.
It's just been harder and harder and harder to find those people to work.
Bethany Gotts owns Quay's farm in Mountain Home, but now with fewer workers, a lot of the manual labor is left up to her. She tells me she's tried hiring locally, but it's been difficult to find people willing to do the hard work.
Finding a legal American here that is going to work as hard as an immigrant is nearly impossible.
She even posted job openings on Facebook.
I had 7 people contact me about it, and when I sent them the description, I had no people respond.
She says hiring undocumented workers is not an option, with serious risks for both sides.
One, you're going to get fined. You have unfortunately, an employee living in fear. They could get picked up at any moment, and then you're without an employee.
To keep her farm running, Gotts is hiring high schoolers and is now looking into the federal H-2A visa program.
I have endeavored to spend $200,000 to build a small small worker housing so that I can get H2 workers next year.
Gott's hopes for long-term solutions that support both farmers and workers.
The misnomer that farmers exploit immigrants is just so sad to me because, like I said, my friends and neighbors, we love our workers. They're our family. And they want to work and they will work hard. And there needs to be a path for these people in our country because our government has failed them. And it is failing, I feel, the farmers.
A struggling farmer, which is supposed to make us feel bad about deporting illegal immigrants because the farmer is struggling because there are no illegal immigrants to hire for slave wages. That's the gist of it. I don't mean to spoil it, but okay. So she's building, and we see the housing that she's building. So she's building a small shack to house foreign third world labor so they can work for dirt cheap on her farm. What does that remind you of? Where have you heard, stop me if you've heard this one before. You're going to build a shack and then bring in workers from the third world to work your farm. What does that remind you of? It's actual slave labor. I mean, or, you know, she's trying to run an old school plantation, basically. At least it's as close to slave labor as you can get these days under the law. And it's facilitated by, in this case now, she wants to facilitate it by these visas for agricultural workers, which is a thing that should not exist.
Next year.
This woman had $200,000 lying around that she could have used to pay some strapping young Idaho corn-fed boys to do the manual labor on her farm, but instead built temporary housing for visa workers. I never thought I'd live to see the day where liberal media was telling people, are you unwilling to pay Americans a fair and decent living wage for hard manual labor? Just import a bunch of people to do it for way cheaper, and then put them in a house and they can't go anywhere else because what other option do they have? Man, I feel like there's a term for that, but it's just slipping my mind.
They thought they were gonna get Black Americans in the fields. They also thought Black folks did not have jobs. So when we put this all together, somehow the white farmers were convinced that Black folks don't have jobs. We don't work. And so they voted for Donald Trump because they thought he gonna send them in the fields. Donald Trump and them, okay, so we gotta make this happen. So we gotta cut all this DEI stuff to put Black Americans out of work. When in reality, they put a bunch of white folk out of work just to get Black folks out of work. And so all these cuts that are happening are to try and harm Black Americans so much till they think that we're gonna go into the fields. Now, when you think about that, that makes you double back and see why they want the Latinos out. Because the Latinos, right, to them, they are reproducing entirely too fast. And so they're like, we got to get them out of here because Black Americans don't reproduce as fast as the Latinos. And so if we could get them out, then the Black Americans can take their place in the field. This is for real. And so now you double back to the Black jobs. They're taking your job. Yes, you got to double back to what he said. They're taking Black jobs, y'all. They have all this down. They have all this whole circle. So now let's go back to the farmers if you're still with me. Because the white farmers, that's what they believed was going to happen. So if y'all got all that straight, this is the message to the white farmers. The last thing you want is for Black Americans to be in your fields. Don't let the devil fool you. As a matter of fact, you might want to let the devil fool you to see what's going to happen. Well, I'm trying to tell you, the last thing you ever going to want is Black Americans in your fields. Now, I'm going to let you fill in the blank on that one. And this goes to show that they will go to any lengths. Remember I said that, first of all, we had some Latinos, not all of them, just them Cuban ones, talk about you're next. Right? To Black Americans, so they thought we was immigrants. And so now we have the white farmers who are still living in the 1700s, thinking back to glory days, quote unquote. They thought with their vote, we were going to the fields. So you got one group thinking they gonna kick us out of here, and you got another group of people thinking that we going to the fields. Now, this right here is a real mental problem because people are literally stuck. I'm telling y'all, people are stuck in the 1700s when they think about Black Americans. I'm telling you, their thought process, they sit around probably campgrounds and picnics and stuff and talk about how can we make this happen? That was their heyday. I'm telling you, when that freaking plantation house burned down in Louisiana, I think, right? That was their heyday. Now, I'm trying to tell you, that was their heyday. When that plantation house down in Louisiana got torched, I'm telling you, that broke them. But I just want to, you know what? I want to teach them a little bit more history. If I have your attention, right? This is some history that a lot of people don't know. But I didn't know Black Americans had white servants. Y'all ain't know that? It wasn't widespread or anything like that, but we had white servants. They wanted to be our servants because they needed work. They were coming over from Europe, and they were docile too. They were docile, and Black Americans, the aristocrats, the wealthy ones, because they were wealthy ones, they had white servants. So I don't know if y'all ever see them pictures. Let me find a picture. I couldn't find a picture. I wasn't gonna go back and try to find a picture. But if you can watch videos, you'll be able to find a picture of possibly some Black people in the horse-drawn carriages, and there may be someone white as the horseman or the coach. I'm not sure what you call them, coachman or whatever. He worked for them. Yes, indeed. It was a big thing when everybody began to see in the early 1900s. What? Black Americans, you use the other word. Black Americans have white servants. That's a bit of history they don't like to put on TV. The reason for it is because they were like, they had white people here that they could hire. And they also had Black people here that they could hire. But they felt that the white people from Europe were so docile and they were less expensive. Now, they weren't the only ones who thought that. The wealthy white people thought that too. The wealthy white people were like, we like the docile immigrant white people. They're a lot cheaper. They take less money. So there's a bit of history for you. It was like that. Oh, because they knew they would have to pay Black Americans a lot more. So they always went for the immigrant. And see, when the Black Americans hired the white immigrants, they were really, yes, we will do it, because they wanted to stay in America. Here's the difference, though. Black Americans didn't mistreat them. They didn't mistreat them at all. But anyway, that's just a little side note. But to the white farmers again, this is the last thing you want is for Black Americans to be out in your fields. The last thing you want. Trust and believe. And next time, you know what? Stop basing your vote on how to harm Black Americans, because you're going to end up running into that wall that's going to tumble. That's what's going to end up happening. Stop doing that. All of you do it. All of you. Had the conservative Asian Americans coming through with the whole Ivy League school. We don't want Black Americans there. Then you had the I will vote for Donald Trump Cubans who were thinking, you're next. Okay, we're not immigrants, so we're not next. And now we have the white farmer who thought that they were going to get the Black Americans in the fields. And then this is all off of Project 2025. So now look where you got America. Look where you got the United States of America. And a lot of people say, why Black Americans think everything revolves around them? No, y'all think everything revolves around us because y'all make everything revolve around us. Y'all stuff coming out.
We're probably already in a recession. We just don't know it yet. My name is Maxime Durand. I'm running for governor of Idaho in the May 19th Democratic Party primary. And I want to talk to you today a little bit about the economy, because that's the thing that affects all of us. And right now, I think most people would agree the economy is not doing super well. Putting aside things like pending World War III with Iran, we're already dealing with very high unemployment. We're dealing with the jobs that are available being not particularly well paying and typically part-time if you can find them, and wages being historically depressed and definitely not keeping up with things like inflation, housing costs, or the costs of groceries. This is a major problem that affects everybody, whether or not you're a Democrat, Republican, Independent, or otherwise. And just some kind of rough numbers here, about half the states or more in the United States right now are technically in a recession. The national economy probably would be in a recession right now if about 20 to 25% of the economy wasn't being propped up by AI investments and crypto scams. And something like 10% of stockholders own about 90% of the stocks in this country. And that same 10% of people is responsible for about 50% of consumer spending right now, which means that for regular Idahoans, for regular Americans, things are not going well, and they haven't been going well for some time. But the reason you don't see like a formal recession being announced is because one of the basic metrics to determine if we're in a recession or not is when you have 2 consecutive quarters of stagnant or less growth. And right now, it's kind of iffy on that, depending on how you measure that data. I wouldn't be surprised if in the next 6 months we get a formal recession announcement. Typically, if you look at historical recessions, like 2008 or the dot-com crash, those recessions aren't formally declared until months or even like a year or more after people start feeling that initial shock. And it's probably just going to continue to get worse as gas prices go up and we continue to see just the basic cost of living get more and more out of reach for regular Idahoans. So if you are interested in progressive solutions and good leadership in the governor's office in Idaho to navigate this, because whoever wins the gubernatorial election, the main issues they're going to face are going to be kitchen table economic issues, please take a look at my platform. It's at durandforidaho.com. Consider donating if you can, and remember to vote for Maxine Durand in the May 19th primary election. Thank you.
Nobody saw this coming. Nobody saw this coming. No, the liberals, the Democrats, the sensible independents, anybody with more than 2 brain cells didn't see this coming. We all saw this coming. We knew there was going to be a war. We knew there was going to be a conflict. We knew that his idea for tariffs was terrible. So don't sit here now and say nobody saw this coming, shock to the system out of nowhere. No, he started this war with Iran single-handedly, and we knew he would do something exactly like it. So these farmers want to continue to tell us, we didn't know, we're in pain, all these big farmers are getting the subsidies and the bailouts, we're suffering, we're going to close our family farm.
Trump says, be patient. The farmer's going to be better than ever. Well, you better hurry up.
So that's a guy named Franz Rowland, and he's been farming for 40 years in Georgia. And it's really this next thing he said that just completely blew my mind.
We've lost our market share, our trade to China. I don't know who dropped the ball in Washington to allow these prices, its trade to diminish like it has. But somebody dropped the ball. Somebody wasn't looking out for us.
This dude is a soybean farmer and has been for 40 years. It's his life. It's his business. And he has no idea, literally no idea why China won't buy our soybeans. Seriously. There's a 16-year-old kid somewhere scrubbing the bottom of a toilet in the back of a Hardee's that can tell you why China isn't buying our soybeans. How does a big-time soybean farmer not know that? And by the way, if you remember, they were supposed to start buying our soybeans again. They never did. They never did. Yeah. With that whole deal they made a few months ago where they fixed everything and they were like, okay, they're going to buy soybeans now. They still haven't yet bought any. I've talked a lot recently about how the billionaire and ownership class in this country is buying all the media, social media, all the TV stations, everything so they can completely control all the message. And that is exactly why a 40-year soybean farmer doesn't know why China isn't buying soybeans, because he's not watching the news. He's watching the, I don't know, Trump propaganda network. I don't know what he's watching. And he's literally trying to find anyone else in Washington, D.C. to blame for Donald Trump's trade war against China. And oh, by the way, China stopped buying our soybeans completely the first time Donald Trump was president because of a trade war. I have no idea how someone operates a business for 40 years and has absolutely no concept or idea of how your business is impacted by policies, whether they're local, county, state, or federal. That's literally the most important thing you need to know. I don't know what it is about this guy. I really want to feel bad for him, but I can't. If you're that irresponsible to not even know what is happening to your business, I just close down. You have no business being a farmer. Seriously, just shut it down. Thanks.
Earlier this year, the Trump administration spent months demonizing immigrants and migrant workers, portraying them as criminals and blaming them for the economic problems and job loss in the United States. The political message was clear: immigrants were the problem. But now, the agricultural industry is facing the reality of what those policies created. Farms across the country are dealing with labor shortages because the truth is something that politicians rarely admit out loud. The United States agricultural system depends heavily on migrant labor to function. So now the same administration is trying to bring migrant workers back through the H-2A agricultural visa program, which allows farms to recruit temporary foreign labor to harvest crops and maintain food production. But the wages being discussed are raising serious alarms. Reports circulating this week say that under the proposed wage structure, some H-2A workers could see pay calculated as low as about $1 an hour in certain cases and around $7 in others, depending on the state and how the deductions are applied. Part of that calculation allows farms to include housing as part of the compensation package, which reduces the amount of actual cash workers receive. Farm worker housing in the United States has been criticized for decades for overcrowding, poor sanitation, and unsafe living conditions, which makes the idea of counting that housing as part of the worker's wage extremely controversial. Because of these changes, the United Farm Workers Union has filed a lawsuit against the administration, arguing that the policy violates labor protections and will drive wages down not only for migrant workers, but for agricultural workers across the entire industry. The situation exposes a contradiction that's difficult to ignore. The same workers who were recently portrayed as a threat are now being asked to return because the food system can't operate without them. Yet the policies being proposed still treat their labor as something that can be underpaid and easily exploited. If this issue matters to you, start paying attention to how agricultural labor policies are being written and how they actually benefit. Share this information and stay informed about the lawsuit, and ask whether the people who harvest the food that feeds an entire country are being treated with the dignity and fair compensation that they deserve.
So immigrants were stealing American jobs up until Americans actually had to do them? So the Trump administration has quietly lowered the price for H-2A visas, so farmers can bring migrant workers back to the country to work on farms. Why, you ask? Because America has spent the last year vilifying immigrants. But the second that labor disappears, the government is like, well, maybe we should think about bringing them back. Because see, before the election, Americans swore up and down that immigrants were taking these jobs and an American would work on a farm and do this stuff. So where are the Americans at? Are they suddenly allergic to farm work? Migrants were pushed out, threatened with detention camps, and treated like criminals. So why should they come back just to pick crops? So I'm asking y'all, should migrants come back to work on the farms? Or should they stay away because America made it clear they ain't safe here?
Whoa, boy, farmers are going through it, man. This one's getting it hard. Zero profit last year. In the red means you didn't make money. You worked for free. And this one in Illinois is worried about this year. Check out this farmer in Illinois.
I'm standing on a corn and soybean farm in Hull, Illinois. It's, as you can see, super rural. It's on the Missouri border in southwest Illinois, and it's literally half a world away from the war in Iran. But amid its ripple effects, fourth-generation farmer Rod Bushmeyer and his family already fear ending their second year in a row in the red.
Yeah, you can only do that so many years. Hopefully it's cyclical. We're in a down cycle, and hopefully we'll head up.
He says last year it was the tariffs that did them in, and this year it's the still soaring cost.
This year is not going to get better for farmers because we're in this Iran war. He complains about high diesel cost, high fertilizer cost, also tariffs, also the trade war has ruined relationships. If you didn't know, farm bankruptcies are skyrocketing, farm suicides are skyrocketing, and you know what? They voted for number 47 in his first term, and they got screwed. They got screwed in their first term, and they're voting for him again. So they made no profit last year. They're looking to make no profit this year. Farm bankruptcies are going to skyrocket. And just so you know, this was all in Project 2025, and this was available to farmers as well. If you found this post as sad, disturbing, but informative, please like, comment, follow, and share.
Black America, I need for y'all to stand down. Sit down. Don't get up. Don't go nowhere. Don't do nothing. Let these people finish handling their business out here in these streets. Because these people, they are not playing fair, and they coming for us anyway. So we need to let them people handle this business of getting their people out the way. Because they coming for us. We know that. That's their sole intention, is to come and get us. I know y'all ain't seen me for a minute. Brother been under the weather, and you can hear it in my voice. But listen, man, I need y'all to chill out. Don't make no moves. Don't be out there in them streets with them rallies and them protests and all that, because all they want to do is catch us out there. And once they catch us out there, all hell is going to break loose. So stay your behind at home, watch you some TV, get your exercise on, drink you some water. I know my sister's chilling. Brothers, I need y'all to chill too, because they coming for us. The man just had the whole database, the whole police database of misconduct wiped. I told y'all, when y'all hired a criminal, expect criminal activities. When you put a natural-born criminal in the White House and you don't expect criminal activities to happen, y'all crazy. Y'all are out y'all freaking mind. Now, they've been out there talking about where Kamala at, where Obama at. You know, they chilling. We don't need them to move at all. Don't worry about Kamala. Don't worry about Obama. We need our white brothers and sisters to handle their people, because y'all did this. You Latinos that voted for this ignorance, y'all did this. Y'all fix it. And you brothers and sisters that also voted for this fool, y'all can go out there. They don't like y'all anyway. So if you want to go out there and celebrate with your people, go ahead. But they going to lock your asses up. All I'm saying is, I need my people to stay in the house. Stay drinking water. Stay exercising. Posting videos and doing our thing. We trying to enjoy life. We getting ourselves together right now. In the midst of all this stupidity, we ain't doing nothing. We letting y'all fix it. Because when Kamala stood up there and told you what was going to happen, you didn't listen. You didn't want to save yourself. You wanted to save your race. And now they coming after you. What you didn't know is all the laws that helped us helped you more. You thought DEI was for black people. Then you found out more white people getting help with DEI than black people. Y'all thought snaps and food stamps, because y'all listened to Ronald Reagan them back in the day with that welfare queen bullshit. And then you found out it's a lot of white people on food stamps and government assistance than black people. Yeah, we not struggling. They just tell you we struggling. They just put our struggle up front so you can see it. But them white boys in middle America, Missouri, Iowa, Kansas, Arkansas, yeah, they struggling. Because all them farms, they get government assistance. All them ladies that live in the inner city or out there in the suburb, y'all don't know. Some of y'all people in them suburbs that live next door to you, They on government assistance. They not paying $2,500 for that house like you are. They might be paying 40, but that other check that cover their rent, that other check that comes, it come from the government. See, but you don't know that. You got people out here driving nice cars, living in big houses, but they not paying the same amount of taxes and bills as you are. And you wonder how they doing it all. Because she ain't got no job. She at home every day. Yeah, that's their government check. So for my people, I need y'all to stand down. Stay at home. Stay doing your thing. Don't get yourself out there in them streets with that ignorance and cause a problem. Because they waiting on us. They want us. The man told you the qualified immunity for the police is going to be permanent. He trying to hook the police up. And who you think they coming after once they get hooked up? They coming after us. I told y'all. They want, ain't but two ways for them to get rid of us. It's to lock us up or to kill us. They can't send us nowhere. Because this ours. We built this. Our people did this. So if y'all don't know, don't take your ass out there. You ain't seen Tim Scott and Byron Donaldson up on TV looking for their daddy because they found out too, they don't like you no more either. Dumbasses. Y'all stay at home. Stay safe. Stay 100. God bless you.
Sometimes people become too political that they forget to think like business owners. And what is happening to these farmers right now is the perfect example of that. So let's reason together. You are running a farm. This is not just some side hustle. This is your main source of income. This is the business that is feeding your family. This is probably a business that has been in your family for generations. And you know very well that a large number of workers working on your farms are undocumented immigrants. These workers have been picking your crops for years. They have been waking up early in the morning, working under hot sun, doing physically exhausting labor that many people do not want to do. And then a politician comes to your state and tells you, vote for me, I will deport all of these undocumented immigrants. And instead of sitting down and ask yourself how that policy is going to affect your business, you get too political. And you support that idea of deporting undocumented immigrants. You vote for him, becomes the president. Then migration crackdown begin. Deportations increase as he promised. Fear spread among immigrant communities. Some workers get deported. Others leave because they no longer feel safe staying in your state. And suddenly you wake up one morning and realize that your farms has no workers. Your farms are empty. Your crops are rotting. Your fruits are not being picked. Your vegetables that are about to be harvested are being wasted because there's nobody to pick them up. And now how many of these farmers are on the TV crying that they can't find workers. They want people to sympathize with them after being the cause of all of the consequences they are facing. My question is very simple. When you voted for someone whose campaign message clearly stated that he was going to deport undocumented immigrants, who exactly did you think was going to replace those workers? Who did you think was going to save your farms? Did you think that Americans were just sitting home waiting for farm jobs? So you thought that immigrants were taking black jobs, as Donald Trump said. Black Americans can absolutely do farm work. White Americans can do farm work. Americans in general can do farm work. That has never been the real issue. The real issue is Americans cannot accept to work under the same conditions that those undocumented immigrants were forced to accept. These undocumented immigrants are accepting lower wages because they have fewer options. Some of them were being paid wages that many Americans would reject immediately. They were working extremely long hours, living in poor housing conditions just to survive. And many farmers became comfortable with that system because it helped them to maximize profit. Now, let's be real. If someone can work at McDonald's, Walmart, or a warehouse job with air conditioning, it is physical stress and similar pay, why would they choose to spend a day in extreme heat picking crops? That is the question that many of you farmers should be asking yourself. So in the video, we saw that politician, that woman talking about unemployment in her state. In the same video, we saw another lady who is complaining about not getting workers, and they are in the same state. If unemployment is truly that high, why aren't people from Idaho taking those jobs? The answer may be that wages and conditions are simply not attractive enough. These farmers have built their business models around cheap labor. The cheap labor allowed them to keep costs low and profits high. But when immigration policies became stricter, the source of labor became unstable. Now reality is hitting them hard. Now they want temporary visa workers through programs like H2 visa because they need labor. But instead of looking for workers from other countries, why are they being too stingy? Why can't they raise the pay so that even these unemployed Americans can go and start working on those farms? Why can't they do it? Why are they being too greedy? Anyway, I don't know whether you guys are willing to start working on those farms. Let me know whether you would accept to work on those farms. So the main takeaway from this video is that whenever you're going to vote for a person, you've got to think beyond campaign speeches, to think beyond emotional political debates online, and then ask yourself how his or her policies will affect your own life, how those policies will affect your income, your business. Because what I've seen is that many people vote based on emotions and they don't really think and see whether the policies they are voting for will either affect them or not. Other people even vote based on identity politics, and I think that is what happened to many of these white farmers. But now they are facing the consequences. They effed around, they are finding out. Anyway, let's hope that these farmers are going to learn a lesson so that they won't repeat the same mistake in the future. Because mistake happens, but it's better for us to learn from our mistakes. So that was it for today. I want you to tell me what you think about this video down there in the comment section. If you have enjoyed watching it, click on the like button, subscribe so that you won't miss the next episode. See you next time.